Good morning. The topic which I have chosen to speak about is a very important chapter in the history of Indian freedom struggle. Uh, the factors responsible for the rise of Indian nationalism. Of course, we have seen the factors responsible for the rise of Italian nationalism, how in the West, how the sense of nationalism has emerged, unification of Italy, and so on. So, if we speak from Indian sense, of course, we know that Europeans came to India way back in 1600s, and from 1700s they started the process of political consolidation. Um, so it take some nearly 150 years for Indians to develop the sense of nationalism. So it didn't just happen. So there are several factors which induced the sense of nationalism within the Indians. So first we speak about the political unification. Before the arrival of Europeans, especially the Britishers, India was not politically united. If we see India during 1600s, in the north, almost the entire north was under the control of Mughals. In the south, we can see the Vijayanagar Empire. Besides these two, there are several petty kingdoms. So, at the time of Europeans landed on India, India was divided vastly into warring families, warring ruling families. Okay. So, the Europeans felt that that was not the perfect time to expand their influence. So they waited for nearly 150 years. It was only after 1750s, after the Battle of Plassey, the British had set a strong foot in Bengal. Okay. Few years later, after the Battle of Buxar, where the British defeated the Emperor Shah Alam II, of course, they expanded their influence throughout North India and gradually towards the south. So, from 1600s to 1750, they patiently waited for right opportunity. So, as I said, the first major thing they did is the political unification. They unified around some 1,000 warring ruling families under one unit, the British India. So over the time, the Indians started to feel like this unified India belongs to them, and it was ruled by some foreigners. So it is this political unification brought by the British has for the first time created a sense of nationalism. Nationalism is nothing but a patriotism for their own country, as a sense of one nation. That's nationalism, and it was the doing of British that created this sense of nationalism. So it was followed by the introduction of Western education in 1835. British enacted English Education Act. So through this, British intended to create a class of educated Indians who would assist them in the administration. Of course, Indians get a Western education and they started working under the British East India Company. But that was not the only outcome. These educated class of Indians, after they get enough influence from the Western education, the Western Renaissance, Western nationalism, they developed a sense of nationalism which they started to propagate among the Indians. For instance, Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Feroz Shah Mehta, Swami Vivekananda, Dadabhai Naoroji, all these people were Western educated. Of course, they were influenced by Western means and modes, these people became front runners of Indian nationalism. From 19th century, these people started a major focus on Oriental studies, which educated the Indian masses with India's glorious past. Okay. So when Indians realized about how glorious they were in the past, they developed a sense of nationalism, that it was their nation. So vernacular literature, once these Western educated individuals thought that educating such people is not easy with English or Western languages, so they started writing in vernacular languages like Tamil, Malayalam, Telugu. So they used the language as a tool to spread nationalism. So once people were well educated, they realized that they have been economically exploited. Of course, they know they were economically exploited even before, but they felt that until they were not harmed physically or until they were left to survive, nothing is bad. But at this point, people realized that these foreigners have economically exploited them to the core. So the entire credit of creating a sense of nationalism within the Indians goes absolutely to the British rule. So this sense of nationalism developed over a span of 100 years. We can see from 1750 to 1850. So a testimony for this fact is, we can get it from the Great Revolt of 1857, which our Indian historians call it as First War of Indian Independence. So this First War of Indian Independence, although it was minor uprising suppressed soon, this sowed the seeds for whatever happened in 20th century. After the revolt, of course, the rule was taken over by the crown, company to the crown. So now it was a different phase in Indian freedom movement. Before that, Indians were not aware with nationalism, everything. After the revolt of 1857, there are huge group of Indians who have the high spirit of nationalism. Only thing is they lack the leadership. So here came in 1885, Indian National Congress emerged, and it proved to be a platform for these educated Indians who become very much aware of the sufferings. So Indian National Congress provided a platform for people who are fired with nationalism. So after 1900s, we know there began the Gandhian era, where Gandhi came back from South Africa. He spearheaded this freedom movement, and it goes till 1947.